Hi everyone. So now we've done the Qigong being the inner work. We've worked on our posture, breathing, mental awareness, focus, sensitivity and intensity. We've looked at the yin and yang of our emotions, working for emotional intelligence. Now it's time to put in the next layer. Okay, so the next layer is Qigong, and we're looking at our core skills. So we're looking at soften, connect, open, close, stretch, compress, twist and release. This set of exercises will carefully work from the head right down to the feet, and as you go along you will see how these skills give the energy for all the techniques that you're going to be doing in the form. So this is the first exercise is taking the head forwards and backwards, and it begins with everything that we did in neutral standing, and then we take the hands to lower yang, and then those hands are then placed onto the hips. Remember, stand tall, breathe deep, focus your mind. Now as you soften down the front, allow the head to drop forwards, but keep the head on top of the spine, so you're actually gently bowing the spine from the top, and by pulling the PC muscle you bow it from the bottom. And then a little spring through the joints in the legs brings the head up, and then you soften down again through the joints to let the head go backwards, and then a little spring again to bring it up to the top. You breathe out as the head goes down and as it goes backwards, and you breathe in as the head comes up. And the purpose here is that lovely little gentle bowing of the spine. So nothing else is being moved. You're using from the head to the feet to gently bow the spine forwards and backwards and develop your sensitivity to it and that lovely little spring through the joints to make it happen. Okay, this is the sideways view. So here you can see how Mikey manages to keep that straight line through the body, and notice how he uses the spring from the ankles to the knees to the hips to the lower back to the chest to the head. So that softening down through the joints enables that lovely pulse to bring the head up, and then again keeping that straight line, so it's just the head going back. It goes ankles, knees, hips, back, chest and head, and then that little spring brings the head up straight. So by combining that with the breathing as well, and this form of pulsing or pumping through the joints is actually then used right the way through in all the exercises and all of the way through the Tai Chi form as well. Okay, so this is head circles. As you can see, Mike is still using the neutral standing with the yang hands taken onto the hips. He drops his head off of the atlas, off the top of the spine, takes it down to the chest, and using his feet, he just takes the head across, then back, then across the back, and then down and forward. So it's 4 specific points, and he uses a pulse from the weighted foot each time. So it goes round one way and then it goes round the other. The point of this is to be able to control the head from the feet, and knowing when your head goes into the foot so the foot becomes weighted. Then it comes back to the centre to finish, and a pulse from both feet to bring the head up and straight. Okay, so this is rotating the shoulders, and as you can see from standing posture, again Mikey takes his hands onto the inside of the thighs and they touch the body all of the way round. He pulses from both feet to lift the shoulders, pulses from both feet to lift the ribs, pulses to take the shoulders over the top, and then softens through ankles, knees, hips, back, chest, head. And it's going to go back round the other way. So here it's come up, over and down. That's it. And then from there you can see he's going to take his hands round to the back. Now he's going to go around the other way. So he pulses from the feet, lifts the shoulders, lifts the ribs, takes the shoulders over the top, and then ankles, knees, hips, back, chest and head. So what this is doing is it's separating, allowing the body to open, then stretch. And he's doing it by using the joints, lifting everything up, and particularly stretching the waist, the dantian area, as that's where you've got to get a lot of power from. So again, making sure that the fingers touch as they go all the way around, so they're in touch with the body all of the way. Okay, this is lift, twist and drop. So again, start from neutral, take the hands in front of the thighs, and then lift the shoulders, lift the ribs, turn the waist into upper yin, and then let everything drop into lower yin. This is to get power out of the core. It's the ability to be able to release the core. So it's pulse, lift the shoulders, lift the ribs right the way up, twist, and then drop. And at the end of the drop, you know, the arms shouldn't shake. They should drop down and stop, absolutely dead. As I say, this is your ability to be able to lift and stretch, you know, the entire core through the center of the body, twist it, and then just let go suddenly to be able to drop. Marvelous source of power. Okay, we call this exercise splashing. So here you're going to use one arm and then the other arm, using that same pulse, that same spring, as you can see, with ankles, knees, back, chest and head. So he's doing his right arm, then the left arm, and then he's going to do both arms. And as you can see, when you're down, you look up, and when you're up, you look down. Tap the heels twice on the floor to get that pulse. Make sure you keep the shoulders loose, make the power equal both ways. This is a lovely way to get that power through the joints and that power through the core. Okay, this is opening the core. So you begin by bringing the arms up so that the thumbs line up with the mouth with the head straight. Bring the hands down to mid-chest by looking down and releasing ankles, knees, hips, back, chest. And use the spring to bring them up. Release the joints to bring the mouth to lung 1. You look above the horizon and bow the spine back, but without lifting the ribs. The shoulder blades touch at the back. The elbows are out, leaving the armpits open. You pulse to bring the thumbs back up to mouth level, then release the joints again, ankles, knees, hips, back, chest, head, to bring the arms back down. So that way you've got a nice pulse that raises the arms up, brings the thumbs down to lung 1, back up and down. These are used in every opening technique in the form. Okay, this exercise is for closing the core, and again is used for power in a lot of techniques. Here you can see Mikey reaches round behind, links his fingers behind, goes straight into that pulse position, ankles, knees, hips, back, chest, head, and builds up the power in the hands. When the power's built up, you then release, let go and close the core to make the hands clap. You can normally get quite a resounding clap from that. Once you've done the clap, your hands will be tingling, so you go into upper yin and you allow the energy to return back into the internal organs. So again, it's using the pulse, it's using the closing power of the core, and it's building up that energy in the hands to allow it to snap shut. And as I say, we use this a lot in all the closing techniques in the form. Okay, we call this exercise rolling the spine. So the idea here is that you unlock ankles, knees, hips, back, chest, interlock the finger joints, and then you roll using the wrists only, interlocking the knuckles, and you connect this movement to the spine. So the little fingers, when you're interlocking the finger joints, will point towards the tailbone, and as you roll round through the knuckles, it will send a wave all the way up the spine. This is releasing all the vertebrae and making the spine and core nice and supple, and using the core to get that rolling movement right the way through the spine. This is an excellent source of power. Okay, so here you can see it from side view, and you can see how Mikey manages to let go in the ankles, knees, hips, back, chest. See how he's using particularly the wrist joints to interlock the knuckles and the fingers. And if you look at his back, see how he opens from the tailbone, the lower back, right the way up through the shoulders and right the way up to the neck. This mobility of the spine is absolutely essential. And don't forget, the mobility of the spine only comes from having a core that is softened, connected and functional. Okay, this is called compress and release, and we go back to where we were doing the splashing exercise, and this gives that bounce through the ankles, knees, hips, back, chest and head. And see the way Mikey brings his fists to the top of the shoulders, and he's curling the wrists in and lifting the elbows up, and this gives two compression lines from the tops of the shoulders right the way down to the arches of the feet. So when you compress down, you should feel the spring working right the way down through the body, right down, and the arches of the feet will flatten out to the floor. And then you can release that rapidly, and again, this is teaching you how to compress and release the core. Okay, this is to open the front line. So take the hands out to the sides, palms facing upwards, and roll the thumbs and the arms over so that you lift the rib cage, arching the back so that you open the entire front of the body, from the feet right the way up to the top of the head. So you're arching the spine backwards but fully opening the front up and down and side to side. When you get to full stretch, start pulling back from the deepest muscles in the torso, so from the pelvic floor, the PC muscle and all the muscles that are around the hips, and then come back by pulling up one muscle at a time until you get to compress. And then when you compress down so that you flatten the arches of the feet as you did in the previous exercise, and then try and release really quickly. It's very important to open the front fully because we spend a lot of time sinking the chest, opening the back, so we need that balance in the body. So to get a good front stretch is really important. Okay, so this is to bow backwards, and obviously I've got Mikey standing sideways on so that you can see this properly. Take the tiger's mouth and rest them on your lower back, that's with both arms, and then open and stretch, particularly the waist, the dantian and the psoas muscles, to get as much stretch over backwards as you can. But before you do, soften the ankles, knees and hips so that you stay in your legs and you're just bowing right the way over, mainly opening that area between the ribs and the hips. And then use that little spring from the feet, from the joints, ankles, knees, hips, back, chest, to come back up again. So this really opens the dantian area, which is essential for power. Okay, this is the twist exercise, and this teaches you all the different parts of the body, the different girdles that rotate, and how we can get power by turning one against the other. So starting off, you just turn the head, then the shoulders, then the waist, then the hips, then the knees, then the ankle, and then the foot, taking the weight of your head right over that foot, as we would say, putting the egg in the egg cup. And you unlock the hip, knee and ankle of the unweighted leg. And you turn the big toe over onto the inside, and that helps you to unlock all the joints through the leg. And this teaches you how to do every step in Tai Chi and every kick. Once you've twisted right the way around, eyes included, you come back in the reverse manner, come back in the same way. As I say, this is a very important exercise because most people will try and twist the whole body just as one. And this is showing that you've got the head, shoulders, waist, hips, knees, ankles and feet, and each one needs to be released, and you need that full rotational power within each joint. Okay, this is bow sideways. So here you want to place one arm in lower yin in front of the body and the other arm over the head. Take the weight into the opposite leg to the way that you're going to bend, and make sure you stay in the spring of the legs and bow the spine to the side. To come back, pulse from the feet. So remember, ankles, knees, hips, back, chest, head. So that lovely pulse to bring the body weight up. That way you're not putting any stress or strain on the back or the muscles of the body, but it's the bounce coming back up from the legs. So don't forget, take the weight across, bow the spine to the side, so open right up in the side, and spring yourself back up from there. Okay, we call this the lasso exercise. Important thing here is one, to remain in the legs. Take one hand onto your hips and circle from the waist, circling the hand over your head like you're circling a lasso. Make sure you keep the hand rotating over the head, and you can play around with this. You can start big and you can gradually make it smaller, and from small you can make it bigger, and you can really in the end start turning in the waist in quite large movements and rotations. And when you bring it down to the smallest circle, it's almost like it's just in your feet and a tiny movement of the waist and just the wrist of the hand. This is one of my favourites, silk reeling. This is a lovely way to set the body and make everything line up with everything else for movement. So keep your hands to the centre line of the body. Turn the waist against the hips to 45 degrees. When you're at the side, the fingertips go to the elbow, and when you're at the halfway point in the centre facing the front, the fingertips are top and bottom. You can add in from that, so you've got this lovely sequenced movement, fingertips to elbow, top and bottom, fingertips to elbow, top and bottom, but make sure the hips stay facing the front and you turn from the waist. You can add in moving from leg to leg and rotating the body at a later stage. this is hip rotations, and place your hands onto your hips, tiger's mouth, and rotate just the hips. So keep the head still and keep the feet still, so that the hips will press into each of the 4 myofascial chains. So you can feel when it goes to the side, it presses up the IT band. To the front, it goes through the shins and the quads. To the other side, the IT band. And when you go back, it goes into the calves and hamstrings. This is excellent to get the mobility in the hips, but also to feel an experience from the feet right the way through the myofascial chains in the legs. So when you're passing from leg to leg, you know where you're going. Okay, this is interlock fingers and stretch down. So you can see here Mikey interlocks the fingers, pulses to bring the arms up, turns the palms over and stretches down. Reaches out as far as he can and then sweeps round to the side. Soften ankles, knees, hips and pulse to bring the arms up. Soften the elbows and the wrists, and then come down exactly down the side of the leg and sweep round as wide as he possibly can. Get a nice stretch through the back to do the same thing to the other side. So you can see here he's using the legs to bring the body up, again by pulsing and using the joints as a spring rather than trying to pull up from the back. This is nice to open up the entire back line right the way through the legs, through the calves, through the hamstrings, through the back. And as he reaches out, because of the interlocked fingers and the palms out, it stretches right the way through the shoulders, the joints in the arms, and you get a lovely full stretch. And then from there it comes back to the center, pulses to turn the hands over, pulses again to bring the body up, raises the interlocked fingers up, and then softens and relaxes them down, lets the hands come apart, and then comes back to basic standing posture. Okay, this is raise hands and stretch down. So here you raise hands as you would in the form, using the spring in the body, letting the arms float up. Bring the heel of the hand down to the hips and then run them down the legs, right the way down to the feet, so as close as you can. Then stretch out as far as you can and then unlock ankles, knees, hips to be able to spring the hands back up again. Again, this is a great exercise for using the spring in the body to raise the hands up, but also bringing the hands in and running them down the leg. You've got that lovely full stretch down and then reaching out, but also how to use the spring in the legs to bring the body and the arms back up again without causing any damage to the back or any of those kind of muscles. So an excellent start for raised hands and getting a lovely full body back and shoulder stretch. Okay, this is knee rotations. So you can see here Mikey puts his hands on his knees and he rotates his knees inwards towards each other and round. And if you notice what he's doing, he's massaging all of his feet against the floor. So you can see goes right over onto the edges of the feet, both sides, back into the heels and right over onto the balls of the feet. So you're getting a full massage of the feet against the floor, rotating the ankles and not just the knees, but the hips as well. So although the accent seems to be on the knees, it's actually on all of the joints of the legs. So this exercise is lift and rotate. So take your weight right over onto one leg, raise the knee of the other leg, put your hand onto the knee joint, rotate around the knee joint, and if you can see what Mike is doing here, he's rotating the ankle joint at the same time, going one way and then going around the others. This is a very important exercise because this is the rotation around the knee that you make when you do every single step in Tai Chi. So the flexibility in the knee joint and the ankle joint, and the way you can see he's turning the foot over as well at the same time. So every trap, every kick, every step all involve this movement. So again, this is a very important exercise. So this exercise is leg extensions, and these are the thrust kicks that we use in Tai Chi. You can see here Mike crosses his hands in front of the body, takes his weight into one leg, unlocks the leg and hip joints of the kicking leg, raises the leg up using a spiral, and then extends the leg out at 45 degrees, pushing through the heel, and he splits his arms for balance. But as he splits the arms, notice they come round. So there's a harmony between upper and lower body. So the legs and the arms spiral together. And finally, we've got ankle rotations. So you see Michael take his weight over into one leg and raise the foot just off the ground and circle round with the ankle. Make sure that you circle both ways and make sure that you're shaping the foot as much as possible. A lot of people underestimate the importance of the ankles in Tai Chi. The release of the ankles and the mobility of the ankles. The release is where the energy and the pulsing starts, and the mobility, all of the traps and kicks that we use, you need to be able to make a proper circle.